So I'm going to be real honest, we have something of a weird video today. What I like to do is I like to have a sort of thing about which a video will be, and I don't have that today because the first part kind of leads us into the second part, and they're kind of two different ideas, but they're not all that dissimilar. One is about the game we just watched with the Chiefs and the Bills. One is about next season. So please bear with me through this one because there's something to prove here. The first part's going to be kind of you knew this, you got this, probably you intuited this, but we do have some numbers to look at. The second part is going to be I like to keep things positive. You guys know that. You've been here for a while. And the second half of this video is going to be positive, but it's not going to be nice. And sometimes the business of football is not nice. Sometimes, in order to continue a dynasty, some not nice stuff has to happen. So, here is a graphic from PFF that kind of tells a pretty good tale about what we saw. The Kansas City Chiefs, 25% on first down, moving after the sticks. That's a good number there. The Bills not so much, 17.9%. That is where these two teams diverged in this game, with the Bills doing better than 50% on second down, while the Chiefs did 45.8% of basically what you want to do. The Bills dominated on third down. The Chiefs struggled the most heavily there. I think probably watching that game, you felt that along the way. And basically what it means is, so long as the game was kind of on pace, the Chiefs were going along at about what they needed. But the moment that they became a little bit predictable, second down, third down, the Bills just went ahead and came after Mahomes. The Bills were able to disrupt Mahomes. Well, how did that happen? Well, courtesy of Nick Jacobs, who does great work on Twitter. So if you are not following him on Twitter, I suggest you do so. It's always interesting to see what he puts out there. One of the great services that he does here is he releases the snap counts. So you had Creed Humphrey play 60 snaps. That was 100% of the snaps. Jalen Moore, 60 snaps, 100% of the snaps. Trey Smith, 60 snaps, 100% of the snaps. Now, the Chiefs don't rotate offensive linemen basically any at all. So, at that point, with there being 60 snaps in the game, there were only 3 offensive linemen on the field for 60 snaps. Something starts to look awry. Kingsley Suamataia with 59, which you've got Mike Caliendo there with just 1. And then you have these two players here, Jawan Taylor at 43 snaps, Wanye Morris at 17 snaps. You had 7 offensive linemen grace the field versus the Buffalo Bills. Normally, that's going to spell a little bit of trouble. Now, some of where that trouble came might be a bit of a surprise. So, Jalen Moore was getting picked on in light of this game, and I know the PFF scores and grades aren't the be-all, end-all, but you see here he had a pass blocking grade of 69.1. Not an elite score, but it's nice. It's a decent number there. 69.1 is not going to be getting your quarterback into trouble all the time. Troubling with that 59.8 run blocking score, especially because the Bills had struggled to stop the run prior to the Kansas City Chiefs. Jawan Taylor, another popular punching bag here, and yeah, not great. So 61.2 pass blocking grade there. a miserable 39.2 run blocking grade. You knew Juwan Taylor was not going to give you a great run blocking grade. I don't think you thought it would be under 40. So something was certainly going on there with Juwan Taylor not being able to get to those blocks in the running game, and that sets you back in the rare occasion that Andy Reid does run the football. Still, a pass blocking grade of 61.2 is a bad game. It's not the worst game in the world. So we have obvious concerns about Kingsley Suamataia, right? We saw him play last year, and it was not pretty for the most part. Kingsley Suamataia in this game, absolutely stellar. Not stellar, but pretty stellar. A 75.4 run blocking grade, but that's what you expect from Kingsley. He's so big, he's so strong, he's so mobile. You knew he would be able to come onto the field and run block this season. It was the pass blocking that gave us concern as Chiefs fans. Scored a 67.9 grade in this game. And again, you know, I haven't gone back on a snap-by-snap basis. I have not looked at everything. Generally, thinking about that game, I don't remember Kingsley looking like the problem. Okay, well, what's going on here? Was it Creed Humphrey? Did Creed Humphrey have a bad game? No, Creed Humphrey was Creed Humphrey. Which leaves one name here. Trey Smith. A 69.7 run blocking grade. Well, great, that was 4 snaps. Kansas City ran the ball 3.5 times in this game on purpose. That pass blocking grade is a 49.6. And again, obviously, not the be-all, end-all, whatever you want to say. For anyone to be able to watch the tape and say that guy scored a 49 should give you some pause, should give you some concern. Okay, well, what about Wanye? We talked earlier about Wanye being on the field for a little bit because of injuries. Wanye did not have a great game, but there's a stink bug in my apartment here. A run blocking grade of 59.3, a pass blocking grade of 56.8 on those 17 snaps that he played. Now, probably if things were different and Wanye Morris was on the field more, probably likely that pass blocking grade would have gone down. Would it have gotten to 49.6? I don't know. And here's where we take the great turn in this video. Trey Smith will be making roughly $25 million next year. That is number 1 right now in the NFL. The average of the top 10 paid offensive guards in the NFL, including Trey Smith, is $15.95 million. So you're looking at a gap of $9 million. Trey Smith is making $9 million more than the average of the top 10 at his position. That's rough, and he's an offensive guard. We've seen what Kingsley Suamataia could come in and do after kind of washing out at offensive tackle. Do you think Wanye Morris could be a functional offensive guard in the NFL? Nick Bolton next year will be making roughly $20 million. That is the 5th highest in the NFL. Is Nick Bolton the 5th best middle linebacker in the NFL? Maybe the 5th most consistent, maybe the 5th most in terms of doing the plays that he's supposed to do, right? What you're counting on Nick Bolton to do, maybe he is the 5th best linebacker in the NFL. The average of the top 10 is $15.4 million. So between 20 and 15, we'll call it 15, you're looking at a gap of $5 million. That's $14 million between the average of the top 10 and our starter. Here's one that's not going to make me any friends. Chris Jones is going to make $44.85 million next season. That's number 1. The average of the top 10 paid defensive tackles in the NFL is $24.9 million. $24.9 million. That is essentially a $20 million gap. Between Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, Chris Jones, you're looking at about $30 million of premium at their positions. Well, that's not terrible, right? But you're talking about an offensive guard, a middle linebacker, and a defensive tackle. These are not the highest value proposition positions on an NFL roster. You're not talking cornerback. You're not talking quarterback. You're not talking wide receiver. You're not talking edge. You're talking offensive guard, linebacker, and defensive tackle. Between those three players, you're looking at $89.85 million. Call it $90 million. The projected salary cap in the NFL next year, I've seen as high as 307. We'll take 296. That's the most common number that I've seen. Meaning that your offensive guard, your middle linebacker, and your defensive tackle will be costing you 30% of your salary cap next year. For an offensive guard that right now is not pass blocking, and he's had trouble this season in general. For a middle linebacker who cannot cover. Let's just call it what it is. Can't cover very well. Love Nick Bolton. Seems to be in the right place at the right time all the time. Very good stopping the run. If Nick Bolton is covering a tight end, it's trouble city. And a defensive tackle that is not getting sacks and sometimes appears to refuse to play the run. Not pass blocking when you are a pass blocking offense. Not covering the pass when you are a team that is scoring enough points that other teams have to pass against you, and then not getting to the quarterback when that's the only premium to be offered at a defensive tackle position. So the maybe moral of this part of the story or this part of the video that I'm saying is I do still believe that the Kansas City Chiefs can get to the Super Bowl this year. We've seen this story before. We've seen this song and dance before. And this is, I 1,000% believe, the most talented Kansas City Chiefs team Patrick Mahomes has ever had. I really do believe that. But that leads us to the next conclusion. If it does not work out this year, right, with the most talented team you've ever had, it does not work out this season, I don't think you have to rebuild. I don't think you have to blow it up, but I think you have to do a controlled demolition. I think that you have to find another offensive guard. I think you have to find another middle linebacker, and I think you might have to do something at defensive tackle. Because, here's the thing, that $90 million, and I know you can't get out from under all of it, right? Like, you could trade these players. I didn't look deep enough into it to understand how much of the bill the Chiefs would have to foot should they trade any of these players, right? But if you can get out from these players because your season didn't go well, right? And what is going well? If Patrick Mahomes isn't playing in the AFC Championship game, it's the worst season he's ever played. That means you have to figure something out. $90 million of salary cap, that can buy you an edge player. Are you trading Chris Jones for first-round pick? Are you trading Trey Smith for a pair of twos? What are you getting out of this, right? Can you find you don't have to find Trey Smith in the second round. You can find an adequate starting offensive guard in the second round. And the money that you save between that draft pick's salary and Trey Smith's $25 million salary can go towards an edge player that will get sacks. Now, Brett Veach has very bad luck with free agents. That's true. But at this point, some of your highest salary players in general, not highest compared to the average starter, some of your highest salary players are playing non-premium positions. Offensive guard, middle linebacker, and defensive tackle. Not wide receiver. You're going to have to re-sign Rashee Rice soon. Not cornerback. Trent McDuffie needs to be here. Not edge. We don't really have anyone to re-sign at that place, at that position. But those three players, and I'm not blaming them for what's going on here, but it seems that a little bit of what happened here is nostalgia. You got to a whole bunch of Super Bowls, got nostalgic for what it was you had done, got precious for the NFL, and re-signed non-premium position playing players to absolutely premium contracts. Not the biggest sin in the world, and you still managed to build the most talented roster the Chiefs, I think, have had, but something's just not clicking. And it might be time for a controlled demolition if things continue going poorly. That is all I have of this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not designing, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.